Alright, so the Dynahoe sat over the winter time. Just got it started up for the first time. And it looks like one of the hydraulic lines went. We got a whole mess of old milky hydraulic fluid coming down, which is alright. We were gonna replace it anyways now that it warmed up. So I was gonna replace the seals on these main front cylinders because they're leaking pretty good. But now might as well do some of these other lines while we're tearing into it. Get out of there. So we'll take these main cylinders off. Whoever had it last just welded the plates on there, so we're gonna have to grind them off, see if we can't rethread them, get new bolts maybe. Maybe we'll just weld them back on, but we'll see. We'll have to take off bottom and the top, and then we're probably gonna take this whole front plate off so we can see everything. But it's leaking good down there. We'll see. All right, so I took this front plate off, and it looks like it's just this this hose clamp that connects one of the hydraulic lines that goes towards the back up and over the motor. It looks like maybe it's for the, I believe this feeds the steering. So there's a hydraulic cylinder that allows it to turn left and right. I think that's where that's coming from. So that's what blew off, and we were just leaking fluid. So I might just reuse this. Doesn't seem like it's dry rotted or anything, but we'll loosen that up, put it back around here. So again, this thing is not meant to be, I'm not redoing the whole thing. I'm trying to do this as cheaply as possible, so we can just use it around the property. Alright, so we're gonna start over here on the driver's side. So we're gonna start by taking this plate off where all the hydraulic connections come in. We're gonna take off those hoses. We're gonna disconnect. There's a bolt that goes through. There's a pin right there. I have a feeling that's gonna be a pain in the ass to get off. And then this is what it's supposed to look like. There's supposed to be this plate here that notches into the pin, and then there's bolted down so it doesn't move. But I guess they lost the bolts on this one, so they just welded the plate in there. So we'll have to grind that off, smash it out, and then we'll clean it up as the cylinders are getting rebuilt. I would leave it, but I'm losing like probably a gallon of hydraulic fluid an hour or something crazy, and spilling all over. So most of the other seals are good enough. Some of them have some small leaks, but these ones, we're obviously gonna be using the loader a good amount, so we'll replace those and go from there. I'm sure some lines will go as we use it more, but any of them that aren't crazy bad, I'm not even gonna bother replacing now. We'll just replace it as it goes. Some of them will replace. Like these are newer. There's one over there that looks like crap, but yeah. Finally starting to get warm, so we're gonna be working on it. All right, while we have these cylinders off, we're just gonna drain all the hydraulic fluid out of the whole machine. I think it's gonna be, I think it's like almost 3 5-gallon buckets of it, so it'll be a good amount. But I think these seals were so bad up in here that I think water was just getting down there and then it was going through the whole machine. Alright, so up top there's a hydraulic reservoir with 2 of these caps on here. So they come off with these little clamps. And in here was the old filter that probably hasn't been changed in 30 years or so. Let's see if we can't find a brand and serial number off of that so we can find a similar replacement one. And then this one over here, I'm not really sure. It looks like it should be a second one, but it just shows you down in the reservoir. It looks like maybe there was a filter at the bottom that deteriorated. I can see there's like a rubber O-ring in there, but no filter. So I don't know, maybe there's not a whole lot of information on this machine, so see what I can find out there. But if not, I'll try and drain what's in there because it's looking pretty milky. But I think at the bottom you can see where the pump sucks the hydraulic fluid out into the cylinders. It's like on the left side. But we'll try and clean that out as best we can and get a replacement filter here. And then I believe on this side, passenger side, you just take this hose off that falls down. You take this off, and then that'll drain the rest of the the hydraulic fluid out. We'll put it in this bottom of this 55-gallon drum. Let's see if we can't find this this filter here. Oh yeah, there you go. There's a number. It's a little rusted. Ends in 7110. So we'll see what we can find. Alright, so drop that hose down and loosened it, and I can tell already that some water's coming out. This is all just water. I guess the water's heavier than the hydraulic fluid, so it sinks to the bottom. So we'll see how much water we get out before it starts pissing hydraulic fluid. Oh, there we go. That wasn't much. Still quite milky. So we'll let this drain out. I'm probably gonna have to get a 5-gallon bucket. Move this over a little bit. So it looks like the canister oil filter we were using, we just replaced that before we brought it over here. Looks like that's leaking too. The seals on these act up and sat over the winter. Maybe I'll take it off and put it back together again and see if that works. If not, we'll replace it again. And I believe there's a primary and secondary fuel filter for these guys up here. So maybe we'll try and replace those too, because I'm sure this thing's been neglected for a while. Drain those out as well. Just threw this cap back on, tie it back down. Alright, we just got the loader cylinders back from over at the hydraulic shop. They replaced the seals. Said it was pretty rusted up inside. The old seals were pretty shot, so I think water was just kind of dripping there as this thing sat for the years. But yeah, we're gonna lube everything up, get it back on, refill the hydraulic fluid, and see how it goes. Alright, so we got this side on last night before we ran out of daylight. Got the pin in here. We just gotta put the block in there. This was welded on there before, so we're gonna see if maybe we'll retap the where the bolts used to be, if we can find something to work, or we're just gonna weld it back on. We got Jammer out there running the excavator, moving some rocks for the pole building. And we got to get this one back up. Been jacking up the front the front loader a little bit just so it'll fit, but I think I got to pull this cylinder out a little bit for it to work. But get it back together and we can hopefully help him and move some of these rocks out of the way. Yeah, you got that big one moved there. Pushing trees over. Nice wet day, so everything's nice and loose. Been putting in the work out here. Alright guys, so this was the old hydraulic filter that came out of here. So it's basically just a metal housing. There was paper in here. The paper filter had collapsed and there was so much debris in here because it was never changed that the interior piece was basically collapsing on itself. So I kind of reamed it out. I put a pipe in there and kind of rolled it back out into place. And my plan was to try and find another filter that matched. Because I couldn't find the exact one. There's no more letters on it, no serial, and I couldn't find any information online on this specific one. It did a pretty good deep dive and had a few people that work in a fleet department take a look, and I couldn't find it. So I tried also to find a similar filter and take it apart and put it in there. It didn't really work well. So this top piece that goes is basically this. It's like a pressure valve that sits on top of there, and I wasn't gonna mess with the adjustment so it doesn't change the flow rate. But because I couldn't find one that matched, I think I'm just gonna put the empty cage back in there and change the fluid every season. The last thing I want to do is put a similar filter on there and without the housing and have that pump suck it in. That would cause some real damage. I think I'd rather take my chances just putting the old housing in there for anything big, and just so that the pump isn't starving, because I think that's what happened when we blew that hose and we were moving it before. So I'm just going to put the empty housing back in there as is. If I can find something or somebody knows of a specific part that would work for this, that'd be helpful. But for now, I'm gonna put it back in. I'll change the fluid at the end of the year because there's still a good amount of water in the existing cylinders after replacing the loader ones. So we'll run it a bit, get that that hydraulic fluid diluted a bit, and we'll keep changing it a couple times with some cheap fluid. But I think I'm gonna have more problems if the pump goes than if I were to just let a little bit of dirt get in there. But it should be a closed system anyway, so we'll see how it goes. Put it back together. So there's the inside of where the filter goes. You can see there's some rust in there from the water that got in the system. And we're just gonna put that old housing back in there. And if we find something that works in the future, I got a couple of people that are doing a deep dive, try and find some more information. Alright guys, things have dried up a bit. Got two brand new interstate batteries, 850 cold cranking amps. Should be able to get this Detroit diesel started pretty good. Used some pins down here from another project I had leftovers of, so it's not the perfect size, but it should work. So we're gonna start this baby up, and we're gonna lift the loader up and down and get some fluid back in these cylinders, and then turn it off, and then check the level and maybe add some more. So right now we got 2 5-gallon buckets of hydraulic fluid. So I believe it's closer to 3 all said and done, but there was some fluid that was left in the cylinders that we didn't drain out, that we're just gonna go with and change it again at the end of the year, before the winter. What you think, bub? pretty smooth. So now the dipstick, the low is here, high is here, and before it was closer to high. So that's about how much hydraulic fluid it sucked back into those loader cylinders. So we'll go ahead and fill it back up. I'm guessing that'll probably be the better part of a 5 gallon, but the fluid still has some water in it. A little bit milky, but like I said, we'll change it out at the end of the season and it'll get diluted even more. But Alright, so everything's looking good. After the cylinders are back on, the seals are looking good. No leaks anymore up front. It took another 5 gallon of hydraulic fluid, so 3 total after I drained it all. It seems like we lost a good amount when it was leaking out of the front when we first started it up after winter. But yeah, well, it's springtime, so I feel pretty good about this thing running, so we're gonna start digging some of this dirt out of here and leveling things off for the pole building. But still want to do a couple things to this going forward, but for now it's looking like it's usable. I did end up welding these plates back on instead of re-threading where the bolts were. I figured if I ever have to take these off again, I'll just grind it off. But I'll hit it with a little spray paint so it's not rusting. But cylinders turned out pretty good. Had a local shop do it instead of doing it myself. Just I didn't feel like fighting it. I figured it'd be rusty and I got plenty of other stuff going on. So we'll get this thing working. It's now springtime. We're gonna work on a little bit of site work for the pole building we're gonna build over here in a future video. But I'll continue to make videos as things break on this thing and the fixes that I do or any tweaking I do to make this old machine run a little bit better. But 1970 high dynamic Dynahoe, it's been pretty good to me so far for what I paid for it. All right, thanks for watching, guys.